Hi there, Johnny here from JonnyLipshamStudios.co.uk, and in today's video we're going to be looking at mixing bass. We are continuing with Stolen Kisses by Pete Lowe, one of my clients, and I just thought we'd make this into kind of a little bit of a mini-series within my mixing tips series, so you get to see kind of how I deal with drums, bass, guitars and vocals in a kind of more rock-orientated context, which is a style of music that I don't do a lot of mixing in. Most of my mixing is done in kind of jazz or folk or acoustic music, and this is a little bit more rock orientated for me, which is cool, so I get to flex those muscles a little bit here. So anyway, let's get into it. So we're looking at this nice blue bass track here, and I'm going to play what we've got so far. As you can see, I've done a fair amount of mixing so far, and I'm just basically over the course of these next few videos going to show you kind of what I've done, and we may make some adjustments as well in video as we go. We might find, hey, there's things that need continued to be addressed. So we'll get into that as we go through these videos. Alright, so we're looking at this blue bass track, as I say. I'm going to play the track from the very beginning, and then I'm going to show you what I have so far for this bass track, and then we'll take it from there. Here we go. Okay, so there you go, that's the context. I've muted the vocals because we're going to get onto the vocals much later down the line, so we don't really need to be listening to those just now. So the bass in the context of this rhythm section here, what do we have? Well, I have Guitar Rig 5, which I have had for a wee while. I picked this up for free a long time ago. When they were doing, when Native Instruments were doing a giveaway, and I managed to pick this up for free. So anyway, it's pretty good, it's pretty cool, and I'm just using Finger Bass 1 preset, and I've made some small adjustments to this graphic EQ here, and I've boosted the mid highs up here, and I've cut a lot of the treble because I found that there was a bit of an earth hum kind of thing going on there, a crackle, which I think is in the bass amp in the original recording. So I took that out and I made a few adjustments to the bass and to the drive just to get it to sound nice, and then I turned up this dry air slider here all the way up to air, and it just made it sound a lot nicer than what we had before. I did try the PreSonus Empire with this, but it made the bass really, really dark, which for this song I didn't want. I wanted something that had some cut, some attack to it. And we may well yet play around with a little bit of saturation on this bass track to get it to drive a little bit more. But this is what we have here with the Guitar Rig. And the Guitar Rig is then going into this passive EQ with a low cut at 20 to get rid of some low rumble that was present in the original recording, and then a little boost here at sorry, not a cut at all, a boost at 3K, quite a big one actually. And what I love about this is that you can do big boosts and big cuts without it sounding horrible and hideous. It's very cool, this EQ. It sounds nice and warm still. Even with this boost at 3K, and that's just to kind of get quite a little bit more of the finger pluck from the strings out of it. And then that is going into this FET compressor, which is 1176 style compressor, and I've got the attack at 0.2 and the release kind of somewhere around nearly 50-ish milliseconds. So we're getting about 5 or 6 dB of compression here at 4:1. So nice bit of punchy bass, and then that itself is going into a final Pro EQ, where again I'm just searching for a little bit more finger attack here, and I notched out a resonant frequency here just a tiny bit, which was just kind of ringing out a little bit, and I didn't need to really notch out much of it, just like 3 dB of it, and that little resonant frequency was gone. So that made quite a bit of a difference. So that's what we did with the bass. This is going to be quite a short video, but what I wanted to do is see if we can get some saturation going on with maybe the soft tube saturation knob, to see if we can get it to poke out just a little bit more. So we don't want to get a lot here, I don't think, because we don't want it to cut too much, because then it will just stick out. So here we go. I think I'm going to set this on keep low. Come on, go down. There we go. All right, let's go from the beginning. Now, to my ears, that seemed to really sound a lot better. It allowed it to cut through and have a little bit more attack, which is nice. Now, I'm doing this on headphones, obviously, so mixing on headphones can give you a little bit of a false impression of what really is going on in the mix. But I think that sounds a lot better now with this saturation knob going on. So basically, I'm going for a relatively minimalist mix here. Just not doing very much. I'm cleaning up tracks because these are actually fairly well recorded, albeit there are some hums in the guitars, which I'm using the Waves NS1 to deal with, and then there's some background sounds in the vocal tracks, which we'll get to later down the line in the next few videos. So I'm dealing with that. These guitars were all recorded, I think, using the same amp. So the same kind of hum is present in each. So I'm using the Waves NS1, as I say, to kind of deal with the guitars that have the worst of it, because there are some that are a little bit cleaner than others. So there you have it, folks. And then the bass is going into the bass bus, which has, this is what I didn't mention before. I do have an NS1 actually on the bass amp here, because the bass amp had that crackle on it. And then that's going into an SSL channel strip, and I'm not doing a whole lot here, just a little bit of extra compression and just a tiny little bit of extra EQ. But that's pretty much about it there. And then that is going into my parallel bass bus, which just has this guy on it, the 1176, and I'm slamming this pretty hard. The needle's going over to about -10 pretty much. So and that just parallel compression, if you don't know what parallel compression is all about, just adds a bit of extra perceived volume to your tracks, and just really brings the elements that you want forward quite a bit more, so that the music really jumps out of the speakers, which is, for this song, I want to do quite a bit, so I have some parallel channels for this. So there you go, mixing bass, and this is how I've done it with this particular song. So in the next video, we'll get on to the guitars, to the clean guitars, the acoustic guitar, and the 3 electric guitars. Now, the 3 electric guitars I will talk about in some detail, actually, because I've used a little bit of a trick here, because essentially we don't have 3 guitars in reality, we only had 1. So I did a little bit of jiggery pokery to create 3 guitars out of 1. Which gives us quite a lot of width, as you've been hearing. Alright, so there we go. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.